And so I just want to share with you a few reasons why now is the perfect time to join this remote work revolution.
And you are ready to learn why. In this video, you are going to get a shocking statistic about remote teams and 3 reasons that now is the perfect time to start running one. This is Alex Salinsky, and you've found it, Tech and Startups, the #1 channel for leaders in technology. Yes, this is the right time to hit that subscribe button and the bell to make sure that you stay up to date on tech and startups. You're about to hear from Neville Mayra. He is a digital nomad who left his last corporate job in 2007. He's taken several ideas from the back of a napkin to $1 million in revenue and beyond. And he's currently the CEO of a remote team. This presentation was recorded at the most recent Tech and Startups virtual conference.
I'm in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria in Spain, which is actually, there it is. It's part of the Canary Islands and just off the coast of Western Africa, Western Sahara and Morocco. So I'm here in the Canary Islands. I've been here for about the past month. I actually came here for another conference, and it's kind of my favorite home away from home. And I'm leaving tomorrow for yet another conference in London. But I'm able to be here and to work from here, to run my business from here, to run my team here, who are themselves spread all over the world, and to work with my clients who are, by and large, back in the United States through the magic of remote work. I left my last corporate job back in 2007, so 12 years ago now, which sounds crazy to say out loud. And at the time, I hadn't really heard of any of this digital nomad stuff or remote work. There were some people who were doing that back then, but as far as I was concerned, that wasn't even a thing. I actually moved out of my house on October 15th, 2012. So just over 7 years ago. I moved out of my house and I haven't slept there since. Since then, I've been just basically traveling the world nonstop. I've certainly been back home, back to Maryland in the United States where I grew up. Of course, visiting family, seeing friends. But I haven't really had like a proper home base since then. I was already working remotely in the sense that I wasn't in my clients' offices, and they were already spread throughout different cities in the United States. So as I said, I'm from Maryland originally. Most of my work starting out was in the Washington, D.C. area, but pretty soon we had clients in places like Chicago, New York, Miami. And for some reason, as I said, it took me 5 years to kind of piece together that, wait a minute, if I'm in D.C. and the client's in New York, or I'm in New York and the client's in Miami, I already can't be in all of those places at once. So what's the difference if I'm there or I'm anywhere around the world? Now is the perfect time to start or to run or to make a shift to running remote. And so I just want to share with you a few reasons why now is the perfect time to join this remote work revolution.
Now, I'm ready to hear from you. Have you worked with a remote team before? Type yes or no in the comments.
So this is some really recent data, actually, just from a few weeks ago. Zapier released the remote work report, and they shared some pretty shocking statistics that 74% of U.S. knowledge workers would be willing to quit their job if they could find a remote job, which you can see is one of the reasons why I'm so interested in this space. So if you're leading a tech team, thinking of starting a tech team, or making any sort of change with your team, I think the thing to realize here is that this is happening whether you're running remote or not. And remote work, study after study has shown that people want to work remotely, especially knowledge workers, especially in tech, and especially millennials, especially younger workers. Having everybody in an industry concentrated in one place, the sort of traditional model, sort of works for a while. But I don't know about you guys, my Twitter is just full of the posts there on the side, people just complaining about life in the Bay Area, how expensive it is, how much crime there is, how many issues that they have, and yet at the same time, rents keep going up and up. And so there's sort of like this pushback now that's happening that I'm hearing about over and over again from people saying, I want to start a startup, but I don't want to be based there, or I want a job in tech and I don't want to have to move to the Bay Area. I hear similar things about New York. And so there's just a lot of employees who are looking for freedom to be able to work and live wherever they want, rather than being sort of like stuck in an office in one particular location. And I think it actually kind of makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, what are the odds that the best person in the world for a given job just happens to live within commuting distance of wherever you might put your office? So again, if you are like building a tech team, going remote, being open to remote workers or being fully remote just gives you access to talent that you wouldn't otherwise have. The other reason why now is sort of the perfect time is because a few years ago, 10 years ago even, let's say, if you wanted to work remotely or allow remote work, you were using all sorts of quite frankly, awkward technologies, from VPNs that didn't really work well and required all sorts of proprietary connection software, to again, awkward teleconferencing stuff, all these telepresence solutions that have always been coming out but never quite work right. And as a remote worker back then, you couldn't help but feel like a sort of second-class citizen within the company. That you were just this person on a speakerphone, on a Polycom speakerphone somewhere, who was sort of missing out on most of the meeting. You couldn't really hear people well, things like that. You were just separate. Now, I find that the same tools we use, whether we're in the office or remote, they are the same tools, whether we're in the office or remote. And even people who do sit in an office and are just more than, say, 3 offices or cubicles apart from each other, end up just slacking each other anyway. And finally, the old high school reason for why you should do anything, because all the cool kids already are. Again, talking about the community that we have here in Las Palmas and others around the world, it's really amazing how many, when you start doing the research and you look into it and you see how many successful tech companies are already running remote and are doing so not with these kind of like my team is a smaller team, and there are a huge number of companies that you've never heard of that are 5 and 10 and 20 people working remotely together on some small software startup or building websites and things like that. But when you actually look into teams from Mozilla, Automatic, the company behind WordPress, I think the tweet here shows 950 remote workers. They publish this on their website. They're up to 1,146, I think it was, fully distributed around the world. So there's no central office. They're working from all over the world. The GitLabs, over 1,000 people, Envision 1,300 people. So these are giant teams that are working remotely. They're doing it successfully. And aside from the fact that they've sort of proven the model that you can do this, the other thing that's really great is that a lot of these companies, because of just the progressive nature of them, publish a lot of the sort of best practices that they've discovered as remote companies. So if you look at a company like Buffer, for example, they publish basically everything from their employee handbook to even their employee salaries and the way that they calculate those salaries. They're totally transparent. So just kind of recapping, access to talent, access to the tools, and teams that are already doing this, and creating a great wealth of information around remote work.
We've gotten some fantastic insights on strengthening your team. But what about other ways you can strengthen your team? I've assembled an 8-page guide on the 4 quadrants of strengthening your team with key insights from more than 11 veteran tech team leaders. To get yours, grab the link below this video. I'm so glad you joined us today. If this video was helpful, give it a like. Go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell so that tech and startup videos continue to show up in your feed. I'll see you in the other videos.